Dear future me, it's past you, and I want to talk about memories and losses, about Danica. October 24th was the anniversary of the official day that Danica was pronounced dead. You had caught wind from two of your former coworkers, Kat and Haley, that they were going to go to the beach for a balloon release. And you wanted to go, and so you went. You all agreed on a time that y'all would meet, and you drove there, arriving early, of course. So you set out your sleeping bag and laid out all of your stuff and laid down and looked at the sky. You thought about a lot of things. About the vastness of the earth and the universe itself, and how the world will keep spinning even after you are long gone. It's a cliche for sure, but it's a cliche that fit the mood that I had then. As I laid on the beach thinking about how small I was and remembering everything about that night, that I'd found out that all my hope had been in vain, I want to recall those nights here. I want to remember those days that left such a scar on my heart. But I guess I should start at the beginning, when I first met Danica. So I worked at Domino's at the time. I was an assistant manager, and she started working in February of 2016. And at first, it was whatever, a new person struggling to find out how to work in such a high-paced, high-demand job for such low pay. Doing what it took to support her kid. She was, in my eyes at the time, a normal new hire. But then she helped me on the oven one night. All 3 ovens were going and I was backed up. But when she came in and helped, she kept up with my movements and was able to mesh really well with the workflow that I had. So of course, when everything was said and done, I complimented her on it. Well, little did I know, that opened the door. Later on, I got a message from another mutual friend that I worked with, saying that she liked me or something. Like, I really don't know. The phone that had those messages is dead now. But yeah, he said she apparently liked me at the time. And I told him that I wasn't really looking to be intimate with anyone because I wanted to focus on me and how I didn't want to start something that I couldn't finish or hurt someone that didn't need to be hurt. She messaged me later saying, "So I heard that so-and-so told you about me, and I hope that you don't feel awkward. I don't want it to be awkward at work." And I was like, "No, it's fine. It takes a lot for me to feel awkward." And I asked, "Well, did he tell you my response?" And she was like, "No, he just told me that he told you." And I was like, I had to explain it to her again. But after that, she pursued harder, saying that if there is a connection, then distance doesn't have to mean the end, apparently. And then we started texting every day for a while, for months. And then I started to go over to her house to meet Dom and to spend time with Danica and talk and things and just be my awkward self. But my awkward self was too unconfident, or at least that's what I tell myself. That something was wrong with me or how I acted, that it was something that I could have done better. Like, maybe if I hadn't been so fickle or indecisive, then things might have turned out different. As feelings started to bloom, so did doubts. She had a kid. If I were to get into a relationship with her, I would feel 100% obligated to treat Dom as my own kin, which was fine, but at the time I wasn't sure if I was ready for that kind of commitment. Past you thought, how can you be ready to support a kid if you can't even figure out what you want to eat on the norm? I was worried about the financial responsibility of it without ever thinking about the fact that she was already doing that as a single mom. But eventually, that showed through. And I saw a picture posted with another guy, a guy who was the opposite of me in many ways. A picture that left little room for questions or assumptions. And it hurt at the time. It did. It hurt a lot. And I reclused back into myself. You still held on to your feelings, but they hurt whenever you thought about them for too long. Even now, you still want to put words to those feelings, but realize the futility of it. Anyway, time came and went, and so did the guy. I still wanted to support Danica in any way that I could, so I helped when I could, even going as far as cooking for her and babysitting Dom once. But not long after that, I left Domino's, at the ready advice of Danica as well, saying the new job would be better for me anyway. And as I left Domino's, the time that I was able to spend with her, and really anyone else, also came to an end. So I started searching for a new place to live, a place I could live without other people around, and I found one in August of 2016. I moved in September the next month and bought a couch and all the furniture, everything I could think of, so that maybe I might be able to have Danica come over to my place for once instead of the other way around. But then, towards the end of October, I got the news that Danica was in the hospital. I was speechless. I found out what hospital she was in, and I went there as soon as I found out. I sat there and watched her motionless body stuffed full of tubes and wires, making her breathe. I prayed. I prayed the hardest I've ever prayed in my life for her recovery. I devoted every ounce of my being into those prayers. And then I went home. And I came back to pray again and again. Sometimes I had company, sometimes I didn't. But I still just sat there and watched as her chest rose and fell, as the monitors beeped and green LEDs made their path up and down on a screen showing her vitals. But praying and praying for something to change. Then a doctor said that she was getting better, that she was breathing on her own, which apparently was a good thing. So I latched on to that and kept at the prayers in desperation and abandon. 2 days after the good news, on the 24th, I went up to the hospital. I signed in as I normally did. I got my tag and walked through the lobby to the elevator. I rode the elevator to the 3rd floor. I rang in to get through the door and walked past the nurse station. Took the normal left down the hallway and counted rooms. 1, 2, 3, and then this would be Danica's room. Would be. But everything was gone. Her name tag on the door, her balloons, her medical equipment, and her. So I stopped a nurse and asked him, and he told me that she had passed away that morning, and I felt everything in me shatter. All of my hope, all of my faith, all of the feelings that I had fell through, leaving a pit of nothingness that I was falling through. The world crashed around me, and I remember grabbing the wall for support. I was silent, and I tried to mutter a thank you as I walked away, but I wonder if I even got that out. I shambled out of the hospital as if nothing really mattered anymore, because it really didn't feel like it did. I called Haley and told her the news as I made my way to the car. Then I hung up. I got in my car and I bawled my eyes out for what seemed like an eternity. And when my tears had dried, I decided it was time to go home. But I stopped at a bridge before I got there. It was one of those pedestrian overpasses. I sat there staring at the incoming traffic through a chain-link fence. I hated how I felt. I questioned everything about life, and I started to lose faith. What was all of this for? What was the point? Why? Why? What did she do? What did she do to deserve death? What about Dominic? What about everyone she left behind? What about the dreams she hadn't fulfilled yet? I fought with God on this issue. Until now, really. A funeral came later, and I walked around in a depressed state for so long after that. I used to get jealous of other people and their recovery stories, of how they went into a coma, and years later or months later, they woke up. I was angry, jealous, envious. And just when I was starting to get to be normal again, a year had passed since she had died. And here I was, laying on the beach, staring up at the vast blue sky, wondering about the futility of releasing balloons. I realize now that it's not about the action, but the sentiment behind the action. And then me and Kat and Haley sat there as we filled up balloons with helium, tying ribbon to them as the sun set across the water, till we were out of helium. Then we gathered all the balloons and Kat let them go. We watched our balloons going off, and we hoped that our feelings would reach Danica. And I wonder if mine ever will.